Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining another episode of the Green Speakers podcast series. And today we are here with Yaro Winborn, Whitley Sargent, and Susan Davidson. And Susan and Whitley are two of our team members from the Green Stop Sign project and report that we've been working on this last semester. And so they're here with us today to help us talk a little bit about the report, answer some of our questions, and just give a bit more of that insider view of what went on during the project. And by the way, really quickly, I did want to say that the report is now available on our website. That is gyfoundation.org. And if you click the tab at the top that says Green Stop Sign, you'll be able to download the report from there. So definitely check it out. They put in a lot of great work to really flesh out the results and make it look pretty. And we're very proud of the work that they've done. So I actually wanted Whitley and Susan for you guys to just introduce yourselves a little bit, talk about your majors and backgrounds. So yeah, I'll let you guys start.
Cool, I can go first. My name is Whitley. I am a junior at BYU. I just applied to my program. It's called Experience Design and Management. Many people ask me what that is. It's basically just designing experiences for organizations, both on the inside and on the outside. And then I'm minoring in nonprofit, which is what kind of got me interested and working with the Green Youth Foundation.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'm Susan. I am from the East Coast, like GYF, and I am studying economics and environmental science. And I work with career development students, helping students with career development at BYU. So that interest and my background in environmental science definitely drew me to this project with GYF.
Awesome, thank you. And before we start talking about the project, I did want to ask you guys a bit about the student side of getting selected for the project, because I know you guys were vetted by the SIP people, and then that's kind of how it was presented. But were you presented like a list of projects and then you chose which one you wanted to work on, or how did you come to work with us?
Yeah, the program that this project goes through is called SIP, is Social Projects. And so we have a number of organizations that they partner with, including GYF, and they show all the potential students or the potential student interns what's going on, and then we can select our top interested that we're most interested in. And then they sort us based on how we interest working. So I don't know about the rest. This was my number one choice, so I'm glad that I got put into this one.
Gotcha. Well, all righty, thank you. Let me see here. And so next, I did want to ask you guys about the project itself. And really, so I know, Susan, you said that you were studying a bit of environmental science, but how much did you know about the environmental field coming into this project and the conservation field, specifically from the public/government sector?
I just in my schooling, I have studied a little bit about conservation from the government side of things, in addition to just the hard science bit of it. And something that I've learned over time is that there is a lot of conservation is not a very diverse field, especially on the government side. That's just been true for a long time, and we've kind of learned about that, and I've been studying it, and it's an aspect of it that has been really interesting to me, because obviously the environment affects everyone because we all live here, but there is a lack of different background diversity in the field, so that was something that always stuck out to me, an interesting part of conservation that like it could be improved upon. So that's it was lucky for me to get in on this project because it's known about and been intrigued by and interested in.
Got you. What about you, Whitley?
I would say I had hardly any background with environmental science, especially in, well, I guess any sector. But that was what was really fun for us, and I'm sure you might ask questions about it a little bit later. But I would say the beginning half of our project was research. We spoke with people that worked in environmental science who helped career development in environmental science. We researched on the governmental sector and private sector. And so it was really fun for me to kind of go from not really a lot of knowledge. I mean, I grew up spending a lot of times outdoors or doing things like national parks and things like that, but never really knowing the inside of it, to take many hours of studying and understanding and kind of finding love and interest in this aspect and the things that Greening Youth does, especially what Greening Youth does, because we were working with Cameron and other people within the organization. So it was fun to work with people that are passionate about something, because it makes you want to be passionate about it as well. So that was cool.
Yeah, and I know what you guys mean, at least having to like study about the field coming into it. Because even myself, before I started working here, like I knew there were different branches of the public sector, but I didn't really know like the intimate details that I've learned since being a part of Greening Youth Foundation. So I always found that whenever I talk to somebody, even our alumni and our current interns, when I talk to them and like ask them about what they really knew about the field before they came in, you know, it's always like I learned a lot more than I knew even existed in the field. So I just thought that'd be an interesting question to pose to you both. And so I also wanted to ask you guys if you could explain to people who might be viewing what your specific roles were during the project. Like I know there were 5 members and you each broke it down into specific sectors. So I want you to talk a little bit about the work that you did.
For sure. So we're sad our team members couldn't be with us today because everyone had a specific role that they helped play. But our team lead was Tina. She was in charge of kind of keeping us all together, organizing things, communicating with GYF and specifically Cameron. And Cameron knows that she was awesome and did a wonderful job at that. She kind of helped write our final executive summary as well and put a lot of the work into that. Pamela also, who isn't here today, did an amazing job specifically working with communicating with alumni and having phone call interviews and kind of reaching out before we created our survey and then after creating our survey and during. So she was kind of the one that was, it seemed like, inside GYF working with people. She did a fantastic job. She also did a lot of work with the social media. Ethan Woodruff also did a lot of help with the social media. He kind of kept us organized, right, Susan? He was we called him our note guy. He always kept us in line and made sure we knew what was going on. Susan, I'll let you say what you've done since you're here, but then I did a lot of the survey writing and then the analysis kind of that and setting that up and making sure we knew how to use. I mean, none of us had really done what we've done before, and so it was a lot of research of understanding what does it take to write a good survey, what does it take to get important and good feedback from those that we send things out to, and things like that. And then I also put a lot of work into the executive summary, which we cared about like our baby. We loved it, and we put a lot of work into it, so that was fun. But Susan, you can share what you did. She did a lot as well.
Yeah, so I, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I work in career development and career services. That is my job, as I help students find careers, and specifically find careers in social service industries and social impact industries. So that would include something like GYF or conservation, definitely that field. So I have quite a background in career development. And so that was where I came in as a knowledge base for this team of practices and finding careers and connecting with people and professional networking and all of those tricky skills that you need to know how to do. And I also put a lot of time and tears into our executive, our final report.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, just from even like the design aspect of the final report, I was just blown away seeing it for the first time. And I remember I sent Angelou, James, and Ebony all like that final draft before you guys did your presentation, where it had like a little snippet of the design, like just like check this out. Y'all killed it. Y'all killed it. And I did want to say really quickly that if you want to learn more about the team members, their bios are still up on our website on the same page. You can download the report. And there's also a section detailing them in the report as well. So definitely check that out. And so next, I wanted to ask you guys about the survey itself. So Pamela isn't here to explain how she was contacting the alumni, but I know the questions were designed based on feedback that we got from the alumni, really to help us cover our bases in terms of what would be the most effective questions to have in terms of figuring out about diversity in the conservation field and what's preventing people or preventing our interns from continuing into the field post-internship. So when you curated the questions and created them, what was a bit of that process?
So the process was a lot easier once Pamela had time to talk with alumni and kind of get their feel as to what their experience had been like in the field. And so that really helped us. I just kind of pulled up the survey to kind of look at it as we talked, but something that we did realize that people had different experiences or we could tell a little bit more what their experience was based on, maybe if they were currently working conservation or if they were like post-internship, if they stayed in conservation versus not staying in conservation. And that kind of led us to better understand what their experience was like. Why were they staying in conservation? What was making them leave conservation? Did it have anything to do with, in the first interviews, Pamela had conversations with people about, was it the difficulty of their job tasks? Some people had a hard time with their coworkers and supervisors. A couple people had a really hard time with isolation and loneliness. So after those interviews, we kind of had some ideas as to what was hard for some interns and then branched that out to see overall majority what was the hardest for these interns in their jobs and on their sites. Some of the other things that helped lead us to the questions that we wrote is we did a lot of literature review. So we worked with people that had already run similar surveys in possibly different sectors that weren't conservation, but they were working on the same question. Why don't we have diversity here? What is holding us back? What is keeping us from moving forward? And so that was really helpful as well to know kind of how to ask about inclusion, how to ask about certain questions like that. And so our previous research with other people in different fields was also very helpful in that. Anything else, Susan?
I think you covered it. We did a lot of trying to empathize with our target audience when we were designing the survey. That was a really big priority for us to make it applicable, make it relevant to them, and make sure that we were actually connecting with their experiences and needs as we were designing these questions.
Something at BYU, but specifically through the SIP or the social impact projects, we talk a lot about human-centered design. And so what Susan's talking about is it was so important to us to focus and remember that we were working with humans, and that was the center of what our survey was being based off of. And so empathizing with how other people feel that you might not know how they feel was something that was really important to us, that we took a lot of time to sit down and take a step back and make sure that we were thinking about things from a different perspective.
Yeah, and that was very important. And I know even like broke it down to even in terms of just like the ease of taking the survey, keeping it under a certain length. And then you guys did the thing where you split off and had different questions based on the preliminary questions that they answered so that you could really focus in and target the questions that you needed to the people who it will most apply to. And so you mentioned the results, and I did want to like go back and talk about that a little bit more, because when I was originally presented the project with James and Yaro, we hypothesized that the reason that a lot of the interns weren't staying in the field after they completed their internships was because of like some sort of diversity roadblock. And that was actually why it was called, or how we came up with the name Green Stop Sign, is because there's some sort of stop sign in the conservation and environmental fields that's preventing these students from wanting to continue. But your survey results actually found that it was isolation and loneliness that was the most important issue, followed by a lack of support at the site by supervisors and coworkers, and finally lack of opportunity, meaning that there just really weren't that many jobs for these interns to take after their internship had ended. And so I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about your opinions of these results. Like, were you surprised that these were the results that we found, or just like based on what you were talking with the students, did anything sort of like pop out to you as being particularly not what you expected?
I would say definitely didn't expect to see. We definitely were on board with the hypothesis that the lack of diversity was going to be an issue for students. And our survey results, we didn't find it wasn't an issue per se. That definitely is a challenge that interns are facing. It's not something that's just going to go away. But they consider that to be not a huge factor in their career decisions and their career development. And it was rather than the issues of diversity that was holding them back, it was they felt like they didn't have the skills that they needed and they didn't support that they needed to make those steps forward, which from my perspective as someone who does work in career development, I know that that is an issue. It's a very widespread issue. So I wasn't surprised by that being a problem for them, but I was surprised by how much more weight they placed on that than any of the other areas that we were trying to explore. We definitely expected there to be more weight placed on the diversity or lack of diversity, and that turned out to not be a really, really big issue for these interns, which was surprising.
Yeah, to answer your question, Cameron, I was surprised as well. I remember our meeting with our team when we sat down, we were reading through some of the comments and the actual responses. And like 10 minutes later, we all were sitting there thinking, what? This is not what we expected. But at the same time, I think it's really fascinating and also really exciting because our results aren't mutually exclusive, meaning that isolation and loneliness, yes, was a huge problem, but there needs to be more research done. How do we not know that isolation and loneliness wasn't stemmed from the fact that they weren't able to have connections with people that were similar to them or things like that? And so I wouldn't say that this is an end-all conclusion of anything really, but I think it's really interesting and can lead us in the right direction. Like Susan, I think that some of these things are similar problems in any sector. But one of the biggest ones that we did find really interesting was the lack of opportunity for jobs. And while that obviously isn't Green and Youth Foundation's problem or necessarily fault that there aren't jobs in these sectors, that's kind of like a widespread thing. That was really interesting, is that there's all these people that want to be in the field, but yet once they go through their internship and their training and they feel passionate about it, they kind of feel like they're stuck. They're at a stop sign. Like you said, they can't go any farther. And it's not necessarily that it has anything to do with their own skills. It just has to do with the fact that there's nothing for them in what they're looking for. So.
Yeah, and I remember when you guys first told me the results, and I was also caught off guard. I was like, I was really not expecting that. But like you were just saying, Whitley, I think there definitely does need to be more research done. And for the people at home wondering how many students we surveyed, I believe it was 159 that responded to our survey. So it's a big amount, but definitely not like the full amount of people working in the field, even for us in terms of our intern numbers per year. So I think really this just kicks off a really important point to keep surveying, keep studying these interns and really get to the roots of these issues. And so I also wanted to piggyback off the results and talk about the recommendations that you guys came up for with us, because it was kind of funny. For just a bit of background, the project originally started, I pitched the wrong idea, and so we ended up coming with a mentorship program idea, and there were a couple of other ideas also attached upon the end, but like the mentorship program was one of the big project proposals that we had gotten originally. And then James set me straight on what the project actually was. And so we circled back around and then fixed up the project. And that's when we got into the survey and then creating the paper. And then one of the recommendations that you guys came up with was that mentorship program. So I thought it was funny that we just like circled around back to this original idea of having a mentorship program for our interns to help address some of these issues. So I really just wanted you guys to speak on it a little bit. So I'll say really quickly that the three recommendations that they had for us were having a designated staff member for alumni and interns, having that mentorship program for our interns, as I just mentioned, and then having a job fair where we could help bring our partners and other people in the field in the same spot with our alumni so that it'd make it a bit easier for them to find these positions. So I just wanted to get you guys to talk a little bit about your side, how you came back around to these ideas.
Yeah. So I think a lot of what we put into the recommendations was kind of building on the idea that if we can get students connected with the right people and get them good information and helpful information, that they can be successful. No reason why they can't be successful. They just need to be equipped with the right tools. And that was kind of what we were trying to answer to when we were coming up with these recommendations. And so the first one that of having a designated staff person, and that was sort of an overarching recommendation that we made, and that if students need good, helpful, accurate information, it's good to have it housed in one place, and have there be a go-to person or couple of people that deal with that. And that's their role. They deal with the job questions. And that's just the center of all the career knowledge. And so that was kind of where that one was coming from. And then the mentorship program, that one is, there was a bit more to that one, in that part of what we learned from our survey was that students, when they're on their internship sites, a lot of them deal with loneliness. And I think that stems from a lot of different things. But we wanted to kind of do something to allay that and also give them more support and get them more connections. And so we devised this mentorship program where they connect with former interns or other current interns, someone that they can communicate with over the course of their actual internship. And they can just, number one, just talk to each other and share how they're feeling and how their internship is going, but also a way to connect them with information. And if there's some sort of some workshop that is put on for the interns, that they can connect about the workshop and they can share their thoughts and they can practice with each other. So it's a way for them to one to just be connected to another person, which especially right now seems like a really, really great thing to have. And also a way for them to get information and learn from each other, and feel like they're getting supported and developing skills that they need once they actually leave their site. And then the last recommendation was about holding a job fair for conservation careers. And this one, it's a big issue that we've talked about already, but just came up over and over and over again in our survey results, was that students feel like there's a lack of opportunity, there's a lack of jobs, that there's just nothing available out there. And hopefully hosting a job fair, our hope was that if you can host a job fair, you can connect them with the jobs that are available. So just filling that gap of students not knowing where the opportunity is, well, we can gather all the opportunity in one place for them to connect with it directly. So we're trying to connect those dots, because there definitely are jobs in conservation. They're probably not the easiest to get or the easiest to find, but they are out there. They're just very tricky to come by. So get all the jobs and all the students in one place that can facilitate that process for them. So those were all the recommendations that we made. Whitley, do you want to add anything to that? Those are just kind of the overview of our ideas and our reasoning behind everything.
Yeah, I did think one thing was cool was when we were talking with some of the alumni, or even just those that are still in internships, I think a couple of the interns had suggestions that were already very similar to that. I remember Pamela talked to one intern who said, I would have loved to have a connection with a relationship with either specific interns or someone at GYF where I could bounce ideas off of. They could kind of help me after I've gone through, or a lot of interns had said, I would love to come give back and help other interns that are doing what I had done before. So the fun thing about those recommendations were they were also equally exciting to the interns and people that we had talked to. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
GYF alumni love GYF. They think it's the best thing in the world. They're gonna help. They think it's great. So they were also very, very interested in those ideas.
And it definitely warms our hearts to hear that. A lot of the alumni who I was talking to when I was asking them if they'd be interested in the internship program were like, oh yeah, definitely put my name down for that. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what this program can turn into, because this is definitely something where I think everybody on everybody's end would benefit. And I don't know if I told you guys, but it's funny, when I showed Anjulu the original recommendations that you came up with, she was already putting together a job fair with some of her partners. And so she was like, wow, it's like they just like read my mind. And so actually for our next project, I'm not sure if you guys have met the team who will be working with us for this upcoming semester. But so we're trying to continue off the research that you guys did and start looking into programs that we can implement to help us implement your recommendations. And so one of the things was a environmental curriculum that would be that would have like GYF's name on it. And we're hoping that that would be something that interns could use to really refresh their skills and also present to employers, like saying like, hey, I went through this course with Greening Youth Foundation, and really just help make their experience a little bit more valuable. And we're also hoping to create a platform that'll let interns connect with each other. So yeah, this next project should be quite fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
GYF's always moving up and forward. New ideas.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. We gotta try. We gotta keep going up and up. We want more people to be in the field, and we really love for bringing diversity to the field. So that's what we're always trying to do. And so I think I'll be sharing your report with them this week. I'm supposed to meet with them, so I'm pretty excited about that. So my next question, I wanted to ask, were there any other like big surprises that you had during the survey, like outside of the results, just like things you weren't expecting?
I think we've kind of touched on this already, but maybe it's not so much of a surprise as an insight that I wasn't expecting. Was based on our results and our analysis of the results, we were able to create recommendations that seemed like they were meeting these pain points for interns. And I guess I had this concern throughout the entire project that we were going to get the survey results back and every respondent was going to be saying, racism is terrible and it's ruining my career. And they're like, I don't know how to fix it, which would have been terrible. And that's a tricky one to deal with. So I think it was nice for us to get results that we felt like were actually something that we could tackle, and that we could make recommendations about, that not that there are necessarily insurmountable problems that we shouldn't try and deal with, but the recommendations that we made felt like they were manageable for this group to do. So that was kind of an interesting insight that the problems that they were dealing with were actually problems that we could reasonably solve. So that was just a nice thing for me to see. And I'm glad that is what we found, and hopefully it does work out for them.
One thing that I kind of was surprised about too was the amount of people that took the survey that weren't affiliated with GYF. Mm-hmm. I would say probably about 10% of our respondents had no affiliation with GYF, but were interested and passionate in the cause that GYF has, and so I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, I feel like Susan said, that was surprising, but also good. I felt like the alumni that I talked to, or the things that I had read, were mostly like overwhelmingly positive towards, they felt like GYF had helped them become successful. They felt like it, even if they weren't necessarily in conservation now, it had connected them to certain people, or it had taught them skills or things that had taken them to what they really did want to do and they were really happy with where they're at. That was something that I thought was really great. Is one of the results we had, one of our questions was, for those that had already interned with GYF and were either in or out of conservation, we asked how happy and satisfied they were with their jobs at that moment. And I would say the majority were either like overwhelmingly satisfied. I can't remember the exact response, but like really satisfied or satisfied. And so I thought that that was really impressive as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of great people, and I'm just saying this honestly, even though I work for the company, um, but there are a lot of great people at this company who are just really, really dedicated to the cause. And I think part of that is because there wasn't like an organization like this around for them when they were going through college. So you can definitely see the passion of people really just wanting to get into this field and wanting to help our students get into this field and help it grow. And I always love hearing interns who find us like randomly, and then they go through the internship and they're like, well, yeah, going through this internship, it like really opened up the door for me and showed me, even if it's what they did specifically wasn't what they wanted to do, it just showed them more about the environmental field in general. Because I still feel like there's quite a few question marks on like what a park ranger does, or what working in the office at a park does, or like what a timber marker does, things like that. Because it's not really a field that you learn a lot about unless you are specifically looking to go into it. But yeah, I just said all that to say that it's been a pleasure to work for this company and just like see the passion that it brings out in our interns. So I was quite happy to see that a lot of them said that they liked working in their positions and that they'd like tell other people about it and want to do it again.
Mhm.
So my last question for you guys was there anything that you wanted to do with the project that you couldn't, either due to like a time restraint or us saying like no to an idea or things like that?
Well, we all wanted to fly out to Atlanta, so no one made that one happen.
I mean, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, our initial project that we had proposed ended up being the wrong project.
Yeah.
And we were all so excited about it. We were so into it, and we were just like really ready to go. And then you came back and said, that's actually not what James asked for. That was a bit of a downer, and we were a little disappointed, but we ended up being able to come back to what we had originally talked about. So it was just funny. We were disappointed at the beginning, but we did get to do a bit of our original project. So that turned out, it was a happy ending.
Yeah. And I know I was a little bit bummed when the semester came to an end, because, we had to let you guys go because it was really fun working with you all. I learned a lot. And it was just, I wanted to see how far we could take it. But, all good things must come to an end. But, yeah, hopefully this new group is as awesome as you guys. And we can just keep it going on and on. But I'm definitely going to miss working with you all. You all were my first group, so you're a bit like family to me. And now I'm like, oh, well, now they got to leave. So
well, hopefully I hope the new team can see how awesome working with Cameron is and how good GYF is. We didn't survey for this, but we definitely did find that Green Youth Foundation is like so needed and does really, really great work, and definitely is closing the gap for students. So hopefully they can see that too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
true. Just one thing for GYF, lots of different organizations work with BYU to do similar things that we've done. They bring in their projects, and not to shoot anyone else's organization down, but we would hear other people talk about the organizations they were working with, and we were like, we don't know what your experience is like, but ours is pretty good. And then it was really wonderful to do our final presentation and meet so many other people of GYF that we hadn't met before. And I would say I was just really impressed with how your organizations run, how you treat people, how you listen, and I don't know, it was just very impressive, and we were grateful to be able to work with GYF. So we will miss you as well.
Yeah, thank you truly for that. When I was telling people about the final presentation, I wasn't really that surprised that as many people wanted to show up as they did, because like everybody was waiting for the results, and I know that everybody was really impressed with the final presentation and just the work that you guys had done. So yeah, big thank you for all the work that you guys put in. And actually, I wanna brag on you guys a little bit. So I want to share my screen and like just show a quick preview of the final report so that people watching can just see what you actually did. So I'm gonna try and do that. There we go. Okay, can you see it?
It says you're sharing your screen, but
I
I
can
don't.
see a black screen.
Yes, me
Oh,
too.
really?
Oh, there it is. There you go.
Ah,
Oh, you see it? Okay.
our friend.
So you can see right from the beginning, I mean, again, I just love the design aesthetic that you guys went for. Like whenever I did reports in college, they never looked this good. So yeah, going into the table of contents and then
Here we
meet the
are.
team. And then the executive summary that you guys are so proud of. Y'all did a great job on that. And then
So,
just
yeah,
kind of scroll through
this was a
quickly.
tricky report to write because there was a lot. There was a lot that went into it.
Yeah, I could tell. I just remember like looking at the Google Drive when we were when you guys were still like editing it and I was just giving my suggestions. I was like, wow, there's quite a bit of moving parts to this report.
But we did it.
And then all the pictures that you guys use, those are just like over the top. I wasn't expecting you to like put actual pictures in the report, but
They were good pictures.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for sending them.
Here are all our survey results.
All the charts and the graphs and all the meaty data that people could want, it's all there.
And I just want to say, for the record, I made all those graphs by hand. So.
Oh, you did? Wow. Well, big shout out to you because that could not have
Wait,
been.
pause right there, Cameron. This was really interesting. Right there, I thought this was always interesting. The support from GYF is on the left, and the support from supervisors is on the right. And so all the support that GYF, like a 5, the darker bar, means that they felt really supported, and the light bar on the bottom means they didn't feel supported. So most of interns felt really supported by GYF, and not to knock supervisors, but they didn't feel supported by their supervisors. So that's also a great insight as well to GYF that they felt really supported.
Yeah, and that's good for us. And it does show that we have a bit more talking to do with some of our partners and just seeing maybe from their end, get their perspective and just seeing like how we can work to improve. Because it is super important, especially for a lot of these interns who are out at the sites, either by themselves or maybe with one other person, that we do want to make sure that they feel comfortable and supported while they're there. Because it's no easy task to get up and move away from home and be on a site by yourself.
For sure.
But here's where we compiled all of the lack of job, couldn't find a job issues that students were highlighting. All of these are direct responses.
Got you. Thank you. And I do want to note that this version on the website does not have the full report from Qualtrics. I thought that would be a bit too much to put in one report. I think that report version was like 43 or so pages.
Yeah, but mostly for you guys.
Yeah. So I think we might keep that for our own little personal vault. And then here's the recommendations where we get to the mentorship program and then the job fair. And then I wanted to show those pictures too, sorry. And then talking about the designated staff member. I really like these pictures.
Oh, and that last page was after our presentation.
Oh, this one is?
The last page was talking a little bit more what we talked about. It wasn't there when we did our presentation, but we added it in there about moving forward, doing some more, consistently doing surveys, if that's once a year, to continue to gather data, but also to kind of take those next steps in learning more about what's going on, if things have changed, things like that. So.
Got you. Thank you for doing that, because I mean your project was done at that point, so you didn't even have to do it. It just shows how awesome you guys are. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then our conclusion. All right, so yeah, I just wanted to show like a quick little preview. just to get so people can actually see it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's all the questions that I had for you guys today. And Yero, did you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I did. I know you guys jumped into a lot when you guys took on this project, and maybe there was a bit of a learning curve for finding out everything about the conservation field that you needed to, so that you could actually pose relevant questions. I wanted to find out, what other fields did you guys look to actually gather survey questions and gather the actual questioning that would be used to put the survey together?
So I know that I can share the people that I kind of worked with. I know Pamela worked with a couple people, and I can't remember exactly what fields they were in. So maybe Susan knows. But I know that some things that were important to us was talking to people that worked with diversity as that being a problem, or struggling to know how to, like, maybe that, like, on our campus we have a multicultural student services, and so they're kind of working with similar things. They're helping connect students to resources that they need where there could be a lack of diversity. They can connect them to the academic side or any side. But I worked with our multicultural student services. He just was like a kind of overarching over all of that, and so it was interesting and helpful to talk with him to know kind of what his experiences have been and the best way to kind of find out answers. Sometimes it can be an uncomfortable topic to talk about, and sometimes people don't feel safe sharing their experiences with what experiences they have had, and so it was good to talk to him to kind of know the best way to go about that.
Awesome. And one more question. Just throughout this process, were you guys able to actually personally connect with any supervisors? Supervisors are super important for us, and to actually get some testimony from supervisors would be very valuable to see how it translates and compares with the survey.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've spoke with any supervisors. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, but moving forward, that would actually be very helpful, I would say. I think it's something we should have done, but moving forward, it would be a great thing to touch on.
Mm-hmm. We definitely, I think we had wanted to connect with employers and supervisors in addition to the students, but that was one task too many, I think, for our project, especially since our campus got shut down partway through the semester. So that was something that we had wanted to do, and I think will be a really, really good thing to include in a future project, because there's so much more we can still learn about this. So that would be a great place to look.
Yes, this is huge. I mean, for us, we looked at debunking conservation and debunking diversity within the conservation field all the time. So to have you guys add to it and to actually bolster up the story and the overall narrative that we're presenting, it means the world to us. So now we can speak and talk with a little bit more numbers and numerical value for how our conservation numbers and diversity numbers are translating within our federal programs.
Good, we're glad to be of help.
I think this should do it for today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Green Speakers Podcast. And huge thank you to Whitley Sargent and Susan Davidson for being here with us today, and to all of the BYU team that helped us. It's just a great project. We're super excited to finally have the results up. I've had a couple of people asking me for it. So I'm going to need to send out a couple of reminder emails just to let them know that it's up. But yeah, thank you guys for being here today. This was awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better meeting. So
yeah, thanks for having us, and thanks for giving us this project to do. We loved it. We had the best time.